guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be giving you some tips for traveling with a 1-year-old. We recently just got back from a trip that we took. We flew to Michigan. We live in California, so obviously it was quite the trip. I would definitely say we had some things we learned throughout that trip for what we can do better next time. And so I wanted to share some of the things that we learned, share some tips I have, and some things I actually learned from other YouTubers, because I felt like I've watched these videos before traveling and they are so helpful. So if I'm able to help you guys out with traveling in the future, I would love to be able to do that. So the first tip I have is, regardless of if you're flying or driving, try to plan your departure time or the time that you're leaving around your baby's nap time. That's not always possible, I know, but if you can do it, that would work out really well. On our way to Michigan, we were actually going to have a layover in Denver. We left our apartment at like 7:15 in the morning. So that worked out really well as far as Grayson's sleep schedule goes, because he woke up right before that. So we actually just let him sleep in a little bit longer. Thankfully, he did. But we waited to get him up until the last minute, so we knew as soon as we were leaving on the plane, that would kind of coincide with when his nap time was. And it did make it that much easier, because sure enough, on the plane, he fell asleep. And that brings me to my next tip. This might be the biggest tip I have, because it's something we did not do and we fully regret it. My next tip is, if you are going to be staying somewhere like a hotel, a family friend's house, etc., try having your baby sleep in the pack and play or portable crib prior to leaving on your trip. That way they can become familiar with it and it won't be so foreign and scary and unfamiliar when you are in an already unfamiliar place. We did not do this, so it was actually kind of a disaster. If I'm being fully honest, that was probably one of the hardest parts of our trip. Is Grayson's sleep schedule was just so messed up. He did not want to sleep in the portable pack and play that Kevin's boss was letting us borrow. It was a really nice pack and play too, but he didn't want anything to do with it. He wasn't familiar with it, and because we didn't own that, we couldn't have really prepared for that, if that makes sense. We didn't bring our own. Had I known it was going to be so difficult, we probably would have just tried to bring our own. Probably bought something small and bring it along, because then Grayson would at least be familiar with it and maybe have an easier time falling asleep in it at night. But like I said, we didn't do this, and Grayson was not at all familiar with the pack and play. He was not at all familiar with the rooms we were staying in, whether it be at Kevin's boss's house or the 2 hotels we stayed at. So that was a really big issue for us. My next tip is also along the lines of sleep. Sleep is very important. I want to do whatever I can to make your guys' trips easier for you. So my next tip is, if your baby uses a sound machine of any kind to fall asleep at night, bring the dang sound machine, you guys. We left Grayson's sound machine at home. We thought because he had experienced napping without it a few times and was totally fine and slept through his nap, that it wouldn't be a problem at all if we didn't have it with us. We were literally squeezing our stuff into one suitcase. So it was all 3 of our stuff into one suitcase, which is pretty stressful. It was a big suitcase, but there was a 50-pound weight limit. So we're trying to make sure we didn't overpack, it wasn't overweight. It's very stressful, you know? So when you're doing that, in your mind, you're thinking, okay, the sound machine is good, it's useful, but it's adding weight. Is it that necessary? We deemed it not necessary. That was a really big mistake, you guys, because Grayson was already in an unfamiliar place. So he didn't have anything that was familiar to him. No sound machine, no crib, or even the smell of the room that he was in wasn't familiar. Everything that he was familiar with was pretty much taken from him. And now looking back on that, I feel so bad, because babies crave routine. They thrive on routine and what's familiar to them, repetition. And I just feel really bad that we thought that it would just be okay to give him nothing he was familiar with at night and expect him to sleep. It's just crazy looking back on that now. So bring the sound machine if your toddler or your baby uses the sound machine. Those are the 3 biggest tips I have for traveling with a toddler. And now I'm going to move on to the 15 things that you really need when flying with your 1-year-old. I will say this isn't really in any particular order. It's just how my brain worked when I was coming up with this list and remembering, you know, what we brought on our trip. But the first thing I have on this list is an unopened container of puffs. I recommend the Gerber puffs for this because it's a smaller container, so it makes it a little bit easier to pack. Bring the puffs, you guys, because Greyson's obsessed with them. I'm sure if your baby's tried them, your toddler's tried them, they're also obsessed with them. They're super good for keeping them occupied. We thought for sure that we were gonna need to bring a snack container, so we ordered one online because Megan and Kuna recommended it, and that was a really great recommendation. Unfortunately, Greyson's a little bit too young to understand the snack container, and we had practiced beforehand, but he just didn't really take well to it, and he thought he should pull all of them out at once and throw them everywhere. So we kind of actually just used the puff container itself. That kept him plenty occupied. He would reach his little hand in and pull out a couple, and I would make sure to not let him take too many. And then he would play with them. He would eat them, and it occupied him so much longer than we imagined it would. So you can get one of those cute little snack containers. I will link the one that we used below, but honestly, just bring the container of puffs and that will work just as well. Number 2, if you do screen time, and if you don't do screen time, that's okay. But if you do screen time, bring an iPad or tablet of some sort with downloaded episodes of your toddler's favorite show. We, of course, went with Cocomelon because Greyson loves Cocomelon. And we actually did buy some kid-sized headphones for him to put over his ears, which is why he didn't wear his dock band on the way to Michigan, because we thought the headphones and the dock band wouldn't work well together. Well, he didn't like the headphones, you guys. We tried them in advance. He wasn't a fan. They were only like $7, so it really wasn't that big of a loss that he didn't use them. But what we actually did instead is we literally just had Cocomelon playing with no sound, which sounds crazy, right? Because like it's literally singing and songs. The entire thing is songs, but Greyson was fine with it. If you're able to, if you have, I don't know if Androids do this, but if you have an iPhone, you can turn on guided access for your baby. So that way within the parameters of the little shape you draw, they cannot touch it, that nothing will close, they can't push any buttons. If guided access is on, they are unable to close out the app or mess with anything or do anything that you don't want them to be doing. If you don't do screen time, that's totally fine, and I know every person's different and has different preferences for their kids. We just felt like, you know, that was a really good way to occupy Greyson. We know he loves Cocomelon, and even though it didn't have sound, it kept him entertained for a while. And along with this, we also downloaded some apps for babies and toddlers. It was just a coloring app, and that kept him entertained for a little bit as well. Number 3 is a crinkle book. We just have like one of those simple little crinkle books. I think we got it at Target. It's a Skip Hop brand. Super adorable. It has a teether attached too. Greyson loves this thing. It actually has a little, you know, hook so you can clamp it onto things. So we clamped it onto his stroller, we clamped it onto his Ergo baby carrier at one point, and he was totally entertained by it. So I highly recommend getting just like a crinkle book because it is very entertaining for them. Tip number 4, and this is one that I actually pulled from Megan and Kuna's video on tips for traveling or flying with a 1-year-old, and that is get a new toy for them that they haven't seen, they haven't played with before, and give it to them when they're on the plane because it's new and exciting and they'll want to explore it and play with it. And that is exactly what we did with the Poppet. You guys, he's obsessed with the Poppet. I mean, it only keeps his attention for so long. It really did occupy him on the way there. He was like, this is really fun. And he kept popping it, putting his little fingers in and playing with it. And actually, Kevin and I were kind of entertained by it too. It's kind of fun to play with. If you've never played with a Poppet, I highly recommend you try it. Number 6, 2 dirty clothes bags or laundry bags, whatever you would use to keep, you know, clothes that are dirty separate from the rest of the stuff in your bag. We only used one, but we came very close to having to use 2. Ours actually came with our stroller. We have the Mockingbird stroller, and it came with 2 dirty laundry bags, which we actually really love. They're perfect. but you can find anything like these, I'm sure, at Target, Amazon, Walmart, wherever. It's just really helpful because if your baby has a blowout or spits up all over everything or something else happens, you have those laundry bags and they can keep everything separated because you don't want the dirty clothes mixing with everything else that's in your diaper bag. We did have a little blowout situation during our layover, our 6-hour layover in Denver. So I was very thankful to have those laundry bags. Number 7, a bottle or pacifier, or if you breastfeed, that would work really well. Obviously you can't bring that, your breasts are always with you. I'm not even sure why I just said that. Anything that will help your baby with the pressure when you're taking off is ideal. That pressure is hard on their little ears, and sucking on something can help alleviate the pain from that. We would do the bottle, but of course, like rookies, we accidentally gave it to him way too soon. We had literally not left the airport. Like, we were still just like driving around getting ready to take off, and we thought that meant we were taking off. So we gave it to him and he finished it before we were even in the air, which was a little bit stressful because we were like, what are we doing? That was the very first flight we took with him when we were heading to Denver before we had to head to Michigan. Definitely got to be better about timing. But what we did is we just gave him his pacifier after he finished his bottle, and that seemed to work just as well. And if you breastfeed, you could do that. Just something that helps alleviate that pressure for them. So that's actually 2 things, bottle or pacifier. And I would honestly just bring the pacifier if you do give your baby a pacifier, or if they take a pacifier. He's 1 and we are wanting to wean him from his pacifier, but we knew that on that trip everything was going to be unpredictable and it would be really stressful being on the plane with him. The pacifier soothes him, and so with that in mind, we just pretty much let him have the pacifier the whole trip. And we have no regrets because now we're back home and he only has it when he's sleeping again, and we are planning on completely stopping the pacifier relatively soon. He's not having it throughout the day like he was, and we're kind of back to our regular routine. Number 8, pacifier clips. Pacifier clips are going to be your best friend if your baby or toddler does take a pacifier, because otherwise that pacifier is literally going to be all over everything. The airport seats. Grayson was obsessed with the tray in front of our seat, you know, that's on the seat in front of you. Kept trying to pull it down, and his pacifier would have definitely been touching that if it wasn't on a clip. So bring the pacifier clips. I also recommend that you bring pacifier clips that don't have any metal, because if you're flying, you don't want to have anything that might set off the metal detector, or when you're going through security, set anything off. Number 9, extra diapers. Bring the diapers, you guys, because you may end up having to have a 6-hour layover one place and waiting 5 hours at another place. And if you only have a couple diapers, that is not going to get you through. So bring the diapers. So what Kevin and I did is we each had a bag. I had my diaper bag. He had a backpack. We actually had both bags pretty much act as diaper bags because, unfortunately, while my diaper bag is really pretty, it's not functional. It just doesn't have enough storage or space or anything in it. And so I really only have enough room for 1 18-pack of wipes and 2 diapers. So Kevin had like 10 diapers in his backpack, which was a lifesaver. And we would just like refill my diaper bag anytime that I would have to use a diaper for Grayson. Seriously, such a lifesaver. So bring the extra diapers and bring the extra wipes. We also brought like half a brick of diapers in our suitcase because we knew it should be enough. We had calculated and estimated and thought, okay, that should be plenty. But worst case scenario, there was a Target nearby. We could literally just run and get diapers if we needed to. Number 10, at least 2 emergency outfits for your baby or your toddler. Do not forget this, because your baby might have a blowout in the Denver airport and be down an outfit, and you will change them into that new outfit, but then there's a chance they could spit up all over or spill something all over themselves. You know, there's so many possibilities for why their outfits can be soiled, and you do not want to have no outfit for them. Because I remember thinking to myself, we are on our last outfit. I cannot even believe that we were okay. Like, we didn't have any other incidents and not have any clean clothes or outfits for Grayson, because our suitcase was checked, so we didn't have access to that luggage. If he had had another blowout or peed through his diaper or had something else happen, he would have had no outfits. Honestly, even 3 outfits, if you can fit it into your diaper bag or carry-on or whatever you're bringing, would be great because there is no such thing as too many extra outfits, honestly, with a toddler. Number 11, an extra shirt for you. Your 1-year-old is not the only one that might need an extra outfit. If they have a blowout or spit up or all over you, or like if you're like me, you spill coffee all over yourself and don't realize it, you are gonna need that extra outfit or that extra shirt. So just throw an extra shirt in there for you because you may not even use it, but at least it's there in case you need it. Number 12, if you formula feed, you need some type of travel container. We love the Munchkin formula travel container. I will link it below for you. I will actually link everything that I mentioned below for you if you guys are interested in buying it. But the Munchkin travel container for formula. But the Munchkin formula travel container was a lifesaver. It was a little bit irritating because it would like the dispenser hole isn't that big around, and so stuff would get stuck and it would kind of be a little bit annoying. But I would take that any day over not having enough formula with us throughout the day. There was literally 3 compartments in the formula thing. So we had 2 formula things. We pre-measured the formula out for 4 ounces for each bottle. And literally it was so nice because we had 6 things of formula with us, like 6 pre-measured sections of formula that we were able to use. And we just used the water that was, you know, available to us. We used bottled water, or they had like fresh water in the dispensers at the airports. We would use that if we needed to for Grayson's bottles. And that made everything so much less stressful because we were able to get him his bottles and didn't have to worry about the storage of the formula containers. Some airports will not require you to show them or take out that formula container and, you know, check it. Some will want to check it, and so it just depends on where you're flying through. But we actually were very fortunate and didn't really have any issues with the formula. They didn't question it or anything, and we were able to have enough for 6 bottles worth with us at all times. And what we did was we actually brought a full unopened container of formula with us in the suitcase. So that's our tip. Bring an unopened thing of formula in your suitcase, and you can just refill the little formula dispenser as you're going throughout your trip. Number 13, a stroller and or a carrier of some sort. We have the Ergo Baby carrier. It's the Ergo Baby 360. It was actually given to me by my sister-in-law because she used it with her babies. So we're very thankful for that because those can be pricey. Love that carrier. And the other thing we did is we actually ordered a stroller, a compact travel stroller. It's the Summer Baby stroller or Summer stroller. I'll link it below for you. Prior to going on our trip, we were trying to research everything, you know, everything, because it's stressful and it's overwhelming when you're taking a 1-year-old halfway across the country on a plane. We were trying to research everything, and in this research, Kevin discovered a video of a dad reviewing a stroller and talking about why the Mockingbird is not a good travel stroller. And he made so many good points because he said it just doesn't break down easily, so there's no way to get it through the little thing they have to get it through to check it without taking the wheels off and like completely disassembling it. And there's really not a good storage bag to travel with it, you know, like you can put it in the bag, but there's no handle on the bag, and the wheels stick out the top, and it's honestly just very bulky and not a good travel stroller. We freaked out and quickly ordered the little umbrella stroller that he recommended. It honestly, it was pretty flimsy, but it did the job. Like, it was perfect because Grayson was able to sleep in it. He was able to ride around in it. Kevin literally spent so many hours probably pushing Grayson around the airport, or we would take turns pushing Grayson around the airport to try to get him to sleep or entertain him. We actually checked the stroller at the gate because we did not want to not have access to that stroller in the airport. So that's something I do recommend. You are allowed 2 baby items, like free 2 baby items per traveler. So we were actually able to bring that stroller, And if we needed to, we could have brought a pack and play of some sort. If we had something that was smaller and easy to travel with, we could have brought that too. But what we did is we just had the stroller checked at the gate, and every time I would board in zone 1, I had my diaper bag, and then I also had another carry-on, so I would bring that, and I would have the stroller too. And they just tagged it and made note that that was going to be flying with us. I would put it where all the other strollers go before you board the plane, and it was there for us when we got to the next airport. And they, you would just wait until the very end and get it. And that's what Kevin would do. I would hold Grayson, and Kevin would get the stroller and the stuff that was overhead. We had that bag I brought that was overhead. It worked out really well, and I highly recommend doing that if you're able to. Bring a stroller you don't mind getting damaged, because they throw that thing around. Ours doesn't look great now, but again, we were like, this is worth it, because our Mockingbird stroller wasn't cheap. So we wanted to keep it in good condition anyway. It made it a little bit easier for us getting to use the umbrella stroller, because it was easier to travel with, easier to break down and get through security. Everything was easier with the stroller. So I highly recommend you do that. And if you're able to, bring a carrier and a stroller. You can do that because of course the carrier folds up pretty small. A great tip Megan Acuna gave was don't bring a carrier that has metal on it, because you will have to take your baby off when you're going through security. Kevin wore Grayson right through security because we just had like plastic and fabric on our carrier. There was no metal that would set anything off. So that was a really good tip she gave, and we utilized it big time. But if you're only able to bring one, I would say bring the umbrella stroller, because Grayson had a way easier time napping in the umbrella stroller in the airport than he did the carrier. Number 14, this actually I already kind of said, but I'm kind of just reiterating this. If you bottle feed, bring 2 bottles. It will be a lifesaver. It's not totally necessary. You can get by with 1 bottle, but it was helpful for us because 1 bottle would be in use and we could prepare the other bottle and just have it ready to go. Whereas if we only had 1, we would just be relying on that 1 bottle. So it was helpful to have 2 on hand. And number 15, burp cloths. Bring the burp cloths. We just used, like, for the most part, the small Carter's burp cloths that are like this long and this wide. Not anything special, but they do definitely work because Grayson spit up a little bit, burp cloth. If formula spills, burp cloth. Use it as a napkin when he's eating, because he did eat in the airport. Burp cloth. Always have burp cloth. So that is everything that I would recommend you bring if you're flying with a 1-year-old. I think it's very important to note that toddlers have a very short attention span, and the things that you bring may only entertain them for 5 minutes or even less than that. So it is good to cover all your bases and try to have all the things if you're able to. I want to be fully transparent and admit that our 3-hour flight, one of our flights was 3 hours. That was the longest stretch we had, and it did feel like an eternity. It was really stressful, and I really do believe that's because Grayson didn't sleep well throughout that whole trip. He was constipated in the beginning. He was just not himself. He was having so many issues, and he just wanted to be home. And so that last flight, that last 3-hour flight, felt like a 24-hour flight. It was horrible. We couldn't really do anything about it. It was just one of those things you can't really prevent. Flight got canceled, and it was just one thing after the other. We made it. We got off the plane and we survived to tell the tale. If your baby is crying on the airplane or has cried on the airplane, please don't feel bad. Please don't be hard on yourself about it or feel like people are judging you, because honestly, we're human. Life happens. Babies cry, toddlers cry. You know, you're definitely doing all you can to prevent it. So sometimes you just can't, and that's okay. But the important thing to remember is you're not a bad mom, and even if your trip goes horribly and it's stressful and everything feels like it's going wrong, it'll be okay. And you're gonna get home and things will once again resume back to what they were. I really hope you guys enjoyed watching this video. I hope you found these tips helpful. If you have any other tips that you feel like could be added to this, let me know in the comments down below, because I would love to hear from you guys. And to see more videos like this one related to motherhood, be sure to subscribe. Even if the sky is falling